What's going on, guys? This is John Zaccari, and today I want to talk about the latest major Wii U release, and possibly the last big Wii U exclusive, Star Fox Zero. Now, when this game was first revealed at E3, I was less than impressed. In my video on Nintendo's presentation, I mentioned that the control scheme had me worried that this game was going to be too gimmicky, and the graphics fell far short from the standard that Nintendo has set on the Wii U. However, I was hopeful because the game appeared to be keeping the classic arcadey style of Star Fox play, which was exactly what I wanted out of this game. Fast forward to the game's release, and reviews were pretty mixed, with many citing complaints in the areas I just mentioned, and the reviewer over at Polygon refused to even complete the game for a review. This all had me kinda worried. But because the game was a collaboration between two of my absolute favorite companies in the gaming industry, Nintendo and Platinum, I decided screw it, I'm gonna pick up the game anyway, and I'll decide for myself how good it is. And damn, am I glad I did. If you've had similar reactions to the development of Star Fox Zero as I have, then stay tuned because this game is probably better than you think. So let's start with the negatives being cited in so many of these reviews, starting with the graphics. Yes, this game is definitely not as good looking as the other Nintendo titles you'll find on Wii U. To me, it looks more like a Star Fox HD remaster rather than a game built from the ground up for the Wii U. On top of that, while the game does run at 60 frames per second, it's not a smooth 60. There is considerable slowdown when lots of enemies enter the screen or while viewing multiple major explosions. If there's one big negative with this title, it's the visuals. Let's go on to the controls, which are definitely different from anything I've ever played before, but they aren't bad. First off, many instances of the game can be played like a classic Star Fox game, with you focusing solely on the main screen and totally ignoring the motion controls. Motion controls are only required for aiming in some of the vehicles, but they work really well, and once you get the hang of it, it'll feel natural. One of the things I've always had an issue with when aiming with motion controls is that adjusting your position, like the way you're sitting on a couch or something, can sometimes throw it off, making you cautious whenever you move the controller. But Star Fox has a button dedicated to resetting your cursor position, so you can feel free to swing around like a madman and quickly reset the position if it ever feels off. The motion aiming is tight, and once mastered, it'll allow you to have better control of your vehicle while shooting. You'll want to use it. Now let's talk a bit more about the whole gamepad cockpit view gimmick. I've maintained throughout the course of the Wii U's life that I hate games that want you to focus on the gamepad, and being forced to stare at the gamepad in this game was a huge fear of mine, but that's not the case. Only a couple of instances in the game force you to aim with the gamepad screen. You can play through the majority of the game paying it no mind, but like the motion controls, once you get the hang of ping-ponging between the gamepad and the main screen, you'll want to use it more. While I had little problems hitting enemies with the classic Star Fox spray and pray approach, I find myself using the gamepad a good amount. Mostly just in the boss fights though. When facing bosses, you'll usually only get a small window to attack, and you'll want your shots to be accurate, as weak points can be small. This is where I'll take advantage of everything in the game. I'll use the main TV to get a sense of positioning, lining up with the boss's weak spot, and then switch focus to the gamepad to get a better view on that spot, all the while evading attacks with the control sticks and using the motion aiming to keep centered on that weak point. And in all the other madness that's going on with standard enemies and hazards, and you'll find yourself in a chaotic, high-speed space battle, and that's what this series is all about. If you can get past the graphical issues and the hurdle of using a new control scheme, you'll find a quality Star Fox experience here. Just as I had hoped since E3, this game plays just like a traditional Star Fox game. On-rail goodness zipping through space, avoiding obstacles, and blasting the droves of enemies flying at you from left and right, combined with dense dogfights in the beloved all-range mode. There's a good mix of old and new in both the level design and the enemies. Locations like Corneria will tap into your muscle memory, and you'll cruise over and under bridges like you're back playing Star Fox 64. while the incredible boss battles will keep you on edge and in awe of their sheer size and scope. All the while, varied vehicles as well as upgrades for those vehicles keep shaking up the gameplay. I thoroughly enjoyed all the vehicles except for the gyrocopter. I get where they were coming from with this vehicle as a way to slow down the pace to give players a moment to breathe, but these sections just made me wish I was back in the fast-paced action. Fortunately, it's only used a couple times. Now the game can be completed in just a couple hours, which apparently is another negative being cited in the reviews, but this is how I want a Star Fox game to play. For me, it's always been about replaying the game, searching for secrets, and new routes. As in past Star Fox titles, there's medallions to get in each level, and acquiring them will provide a lot of extra game time for completionists, as well as hidden passages and requirements that will allow you to take different routes through the game, experiencing new levels and boss fights. And once you do one run through the campaign, you'll unlock arcade mode. This mode feels like the platinum touch on this title, as it's definitely for the more hardcore player. This mode is used to track your total time and kills through an entire playthrough for a score. Simple enough, right? Well, you also start with no extra lives and no continues. Die in that last boss battle? Well, you gotta start the playthrough all over again. Now in the game, 3 gold rings gives you an extra life, and that carries over into arcade mode, but you can't store multiple of them. So basically, at any given time, you can only have 1 extra life, and once you die and use it, you'll have to collect 3 more gold rings to have another. This makes the game extremely tense. I was freaking out during the last boss fight the first time I played it through on arcade mode, as I had no lives and already had restarted it a couple times. Finishing the game in this mode is incredibly satisfying. Now, with your time being tracked in arcade mode, you might think this mode is all about finding the fastest route, but no. When you beat the game in arcade mode and are taken to your scoreboard, you'll see that the game keeps track of your top scores for each individual route separately, so you can focus on perfecting the routes you enjoy most. And yeah, as you can see here, there's quite a few routes to discover. So if you couldn't tell, I really enjoyed this game. But I get where the critics are coming from with some of the problems, like particularly the graphics and performance issues. They really could use some work. Not so sure about the Polygon reviewer who was so offended they couldn't bring themselves to finish the game. That seems pretty extreme to me. I think the game did have a lot of love and effort put into it, but it just would have benefited from some more polish. I assume with the game being already delayed, as well as Nintendo's other major Wii U game this year, The Legend of Zelda, having no release date in sight, the team probably didn't have much choice but to deliver the game with these issues. Still, Star Fox Zero is a lot of fun. As someone who's been yearning for some classic Star Fox action, I'm pleased with the package I got here. The game doesn't do anything spectacular, but it doesn't have to. It's a Star Fox game, nothing more, nothing less, and that's perfectly fine.